Hello, subjects. Professor Cynic here, and today I wanted to talk about. Oh, I'm Professor Cynic. I have a hidden lab in the basement of the Game Probe offices. It's a gaming company in the Midwest. Oh, jeez, this is awkward. No, it's not your fault. It's mine. I should have done a better job of. You know what? How about this? I think I know how I can resolve this issue. I have a website. If you go there, there should be a section in the navigation called Dossier. If you click on that, do a little bit of reading, it should clear up any confusion as to why I'm here. I know, we just met, and I'm sending you on a wild goose chase to do some reading. I mean, it's not like a video game would do that. I mean, that would be ludicrous. Imagine a video game saying to its players, we're not going to include any narrative. Instead, you need to pop on over to a website and do all of the reading there if you want any kind of background. We're not going to do any of that work for you. I mean, never in the history of gaming has something like that happened. But anyway, on to business, shall we? Today, I'd like to talk to you about the Nintendo Switch. I was able to, divert a Switch unit that was bound for GamePro. I think it's in better hands personally, but I was getting the heebie-jeebies about buying a Switch for myself on launch day because I was hearing so many problems about it. But now that I've had a unit for a while, I'd like to share my thoughts with you on the Nintendo Switch. So without further ado, my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch.
The Switch comes with two controllers, which are kind of like one controller there's two of them anyway, and they're called Joy-Cons. Each Joy-Con has an attachment with a lanyard. There's also a grip that you can attach to the Joy-Cons to create a sort of regular controller. It comes with a dock so that you can play in docked mode, and of course the Switch tablet with the appropriate cables. Well, let's start with a dock. It feels cheap and flimsy, but I guess it didn't need to be fancy. Its only purpose is to charge the tablet and project the Switch to the TV. But what is unforgivable is the fact that the dock is like a rusty bear trap to the Switch's bare baby ass. Unless the tablet is perfectly vertical when being inserted into the dock, an audible grinding noise can be heard. This makes a screen protector and this thing called a dock sock absolutely necessary if you care about the integrity of the screen. I'm serious, don't even bother buying a Switch until you have a screen protector and sock in hand. Oh, and don't go to the store looking for a dock sock, because Nintendo doesn't sell them. So far, the only place I've found them is online at Etsy. I suppose because Nintendo selling dock socks would be an admission of how much they screwed the pooch on the dock design. The tablet has just the right amount of heft to it. It doesn't feel too heavy as to exhaust the player while playing on docked, but has enough weight to make the tablet feel like it has some substance. The display is great. For reference, the only game I've played so far is Super Mario Odyssey. It truly makes you feel like you have a full console experience on the go. That's perhaps the greatest aspect of the Switch. The user interface on the Switch is clean and easy to navigate. I quite enjoyed perusing the shop to decide what my first purchase would be. There's a kickstand on the back of the tablet. This is also where your SD card is going to go if you bought one. You really have to crank on that thing to get it to pop out. I was afraid I was doing something wrong and was going to bust the thing off. And once you do free it, you can click it into position. And there is only one position. I think. I was so fear-stricken from the amount of force it took to free it in the first place that I wasn't about to put any additional stress on the thing. Overall, the kickstand feels very delicate, so I try to avoid going into kickstand mode as much as possible. Not to mention the fact that the tablet doesn't feel that stable when being propped up by it. I've heard some people complain about the dust cover for the game cartridges, saying it was difficult to open. I thought it was pretty easy to open and close, but maybe it would be more difficult if I had a game in. I, of course, went with a digital download for Mario Odyssey, so I really can't be sure. But it's gotta be better than the alternative. That is, a shitload of dust getting into your Switch's internals. We do not need a new generation of gamers blowing into stuff they shouldn't be. In a massive head-scratcher of design, the charging port for the Switch is on the bottom of the tablet. Now, I know this is for facilitating docked mode, but why not put a charging port on the top as well? Maybe this comes down to personal preference, but I'd much rather have the charging cable come out of the top while in handheld mode, as opposed to going into my crotch on the bottom. But what makes the decision even more f***ed up is that, when in kickstand mode, you cannot charge the system because the port is obstructed by whatever the f*** you have the tablet sitting on. But fear not. Nintendo has a solution. For $12.99, you can buy a stand that raises the Switch up so you can charge while in kickstand mode. I know it's not expensive, but come on. Why put the damn kickstand on the tablet in the first place if I'm going to have to buy one of these damn things anyway? At least include one with the Switch standard. This is the epitome of creating problems for profit. That would be a good band name. Problems for profit. I'll write that down. As I mentioned before, the Switch comes with two Joy-Cons, a left and a right. With certain games, these can each function as independent controllers. So I guess if you want to be technical, you're getting two controllers. I know there were reports of the left Joy-Con dropping connection. I didn't notice this issue. In fact, the Joy-Cons felt pretty responsive when using them wirelessly. But it's very possible that Nintendo resolved the left Joy-Con issue with new Switches being sold, now that it's been out for a year. The buttons on the Joy-Cons have a satisfying click when you press them. I love that design, and wish more companies would move away from the squishy feeling buttons like the ones found on the DualShock 4. The Switch comes with a grip to slide the two Joy-Cons to. It feels okay. Speaking as someone with smaller hands, which has absolutely no significance to other regions of my body, I know I have peer-reviewed studies that say so. Well, anyway, as someone with smaller hands, the grips still feel pretty cramped. And get this, you can't charge the Joy-Cons with the grip that comes with the Switch. No. If you want to do that, you need to buy an additional grip with a USB-C port on the top of it for $29.99. And while this is my fault for not reading the box closely, I thought that the grip had a battery in it so that I could charge the grip and then continue to play wirelessly while the grip charged the Joy-Cons. But no, the only difference between the grip and the one that comes with the system is that this one has a USB-C port on the top. So for all intents and purposes, it's a wired controller. The Joy-Cons come with some wrist cords for use when playing with them separated, which slide onto the Joy-Cons with a plate. The plate adds just enough girth to the Joy-Cons to make them feel pretty uncomfortable in my hands. They feel much better without them. Mario Odyssey really hammers home that Nintendo wants you to play with the Joy-Cons separated. As pessimistic as I was that I would hate it, I gave it a try. I was pleasantly surprised to find out I love it. It's interesting to be able to slouch back in my chair with my hands at my side in a more natural position, as opposed to nested in front of me like I would with a traditional controller. At least with Odyssey, it seems to work pretty well. I'm excited to see how the split controllers will work with other games. But despite my new gaming stance being comfortable, the damn Joy-Cons were a pain. I found my hands cramping up within the first hour of playtime. Seriously, these things are not ergonomic in the slightest. It's like someone based the Joy-Con design off of those dry, powdery Neapolitan wafer cookie things. And it doesn't feel much better with the Joy-Cons attached to the tablet. Having the Joy-Cons on the grips is the only way to keep my hands from cramping. But then I can't enjoy lazily keeping my hands at my side. I just don't understand why Nintendo is consistently allowed to get away with their shitty ergonomics. If you look at their consoles, they have a knack for boxy designs, or downright fucked up designs that don't feel comfortable in the hands. Microsoft or Sony would be crucified if they made controllers this uncomfortable. I'm not a huge fan of the DualShock's form, but I would take that any day over the unnatural feeling of Joy-Cons in my hand. And we know they're capable of proper ergonomics. I know you've probably never tried one because, let's face it, no one owned a Wii U, but the Wii U Pro controller is probably the most comfortable controller I've ever had, made by Nintendo. Nintendo, enough with the bull controller design, please. Oh, and remember in the Nintendo Switch trailer, there was a guy utilizing the HD Rumble feature to count ice cubes or something in the Joy-Con? Turns out the HD Rumble is a really neat feature. It's tough to describe, but the Rumble is able to give different sensations. So, for example, in Mario Odyssey, something might grind up against the wall, and the HD Rumble mimicked a grinding feeling. It was really cool, and I hope that developers utilize the feature for other games. This point has already been screamed from the mountaintops, so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but save data. You can't back up save data. No cloud saving, no saving to the SD card, nothing. If you pour 100 hours into Breath of the Wild and leave your Switch on the subway, getting a new Switch ain't bringing that save data back. It's forever gone into the void. It is completely inexcusable that a major system exists in 2018 that lacks the ability to back up save data. I have to imagine that Nintendo is working on a way to implement this, but we are already a year in and the functionality still doesn't exist. One last thing. The dreaded bending switch. I'm sure you've already seen pics and videos detailing poor saps whose switches have warped, likely no fault of their own. Well, I took a look and, at least at the eye test, my switch doesn't appear to be bent. I play the Switch mostly docked and maybe undocked a couple hours a week. I don't know if that makes a difference. I probably only have a total of 30 play hours in, but I'll be keeping an eye on the integrity of the tablet. You'll certainly hear from me if I notice a bend.
And there you have it, my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch. Does it have its flaws? Yes. It has a lot of them. But Nintendo has done something truly special here. They've taken a home console and made it a convincing portable console. It's a true hybrid gaming device. And the Nintendo Switch proves that while Nintendo is great at making overpriced paperweights, the old dog still knows how to innovate, doesn't he? That is when they aren't busy being massive shitheads. And with that, subjects, I remind you to always stay cynical.